Hey guys, welcome back to Ravenclaw Reads. I'm Courtney, and today you're joining me for a weekly wrap-up. If you are new to my channel, welcome. Please check out my content to see if this is a channel that you'd like to subscribe to. Subscribing is free. We would love to have you. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and I'm almost there. If you'd like to support the channel even more, become a member and get some special perks. If you are a returning viewer, thanks so much for coming back. Happy to see you. So I've been doing weekly wrap-ups. This is my second week in a row of doing it because I usually do weekly reading vlogs. Last week I was very busy, and this week I read chunkier books, and so it didn't make sense to keep popping in to give you updates on the same books over and over. So I decided to do the weekly wrap-up again, and I really love that format, especially when I'm focused on a specific reading goal. So I'm going to share the 3 books that I read this week and the 3 books that I'm going to attempt to read next week. So this week I did finish 3 books. I did DNF a book. And so let's talk about the DNF first. I have been trying to read The Wishing Game for a hot minute. I started it, obviously I got it from Book of the Month Club. I started it and I just could not catch a groove of it. It almost felt like I was reading Magic Treehouse. So I couldn't get it. So then I was like, okay, it's a short book. I'm going to try to finish it this week. And I started it again yesterday as my 3rd book of the week, and I just did nothing for me. So I did DNF that book. If you like it, tell me down below, like, what was the appeal, because I'm struggling to find that. But let's talk about what I actually finished. So the first book I read this week was Kristen Hanna's True Colors. If you're new here or you're just tuning in, I have recently discovered Kristen Hanna, and have really enjoyed her books. And so I'm trying to get through her entire catalog. This will be the 3rd Kristen Hanna book that I've read, and I gave this book 4 stars. This book follows the Grey sisters. I have to find their names. So we have Winona, Aurora, and Vivienne. Winona's the oldest, and we're following their sort of 20-year journey. We start in like 1979. Their mother has just passed away. They live on a farm, and their dad is now responsible for them, although the dad's semi-emotionally distant. He's very focused on the farm, and we find out from the very beginning Winona's being passed up to be sort of like the daughter that looks good in her father's eyes. He never approves of her. They do mention she's a bit overweight, and that is a problem for her dad. She's also not really good at managing horses, which is a huge part of the farm. And so she kind of gets pushed aside as like the next in charge. And Vivienne steps up, who's the youngest, and she becomes sort of like the center of her dad's attention and focus. And really the other sisters. Aurora is the middle child. She's literally the middle child. Like, we don't hear that much from her, but she comes in the clutch, and she, throughout the story, supports both Winona and Vivienne. The story starts with all 3 and then starts to pivot to really Vivienne's evolution and story, right? And so we're going from Vivienne's perspective of her being the center of her dad's eye to the point where she has these great ideas for the farm, and then they don't turn out so great. After we skip from like 79 to 1992, and during that time, the farm and the business has really plummeted because of Vivienne's lack of business sense. Winona comes in, she's a lawyer now, an attorney, and she comes to save the day, right? And Vivienne has this great idea of creating the farm into this like rodeo / training facility. They really do not have the money for this project and idea, but Vivienne wants to mortgage the house. Obviously that's concerning to Winona and Aurora because there's never been a house payment, and now we're following Vivienne's idea. The dad signs off on it because he loves Vivienne, and Winona takes on the duty of managing the money of all of this. So we start to see that dynamic between Winona and Vivienne, with Winona always kind of being the one to rescue Vivienne, and that is the theme throughout the book. The overarching plot of this book is that Vivienne marries an American Indian against the will or against societal's norm, right? So it's 1992. They are in, I can't remember where they're at. It's like Oklahoma, somewhere flat and farmy. And the idea of this person coming into their community who's never lived there is already alarming. But for Vivian, who's already sort of promised to the amazing Luke, amazing in everyone else's eyes, she's bored. She doesn't like him in the way that she should, and she's not like deeply in love with him. She is tolerating him. So when her future husband comes, what is his name? My goodness, I'm gonna forget because I read this so many days ago. Dallas. So when Dallas comes in, she is swept away. He's actually a farmhand, and they begin flirting and begin creating a relationship, and he is very clear that it's just a physical relationship, and she immediately falls in love. And then something happens, a shocking crime happens within the community, and Dallas is at the center of accusation. And so we kind of watch Vivian evolve and fall apart at the same time, and we continue to watch Winona come to Vivian's aid. Now, this book, like I said, I gave it 4 stars. I really, really liked it. The only complaint I had was that I really wish it did not only come from Vivian's perspective. She's one of those characters that you don't really like, but the whole story revolves around her. She's very self-centered, very self-driven. She is not a family person. She doesn't care much about how much her sisters sacrifice for her or her father sacrifices. Her bottom line is herself, and those types of characters just really send me. I do not like those. But overall, a really, really, really good book. I highly recommend this book. And like I said, I'm just slowly working through Kristen Hanna's catalog. The next book I have is Fly Away. I also want to read Nightingale. And so there's just so many good books of hers that I want to deep dive into. The next book I read was Listen for the Lie. This book was really good, and I picked it up from the library. It happened to go on sale as an ebook deal the same day it was ready at the library because I had been on hold for months, but I decided just to go with the library copy in case I didn't like it, but I actually really did like it, and I gave it 4 stars. This book follows Lucy and Savvy. We have an opening scene where Savvy is dead and Lucy's wandering around with blood all over her, in her hair and her clothes. And we are assuming that Lucy has committed a crime. We go through this mystery novel trying to figure out and put together the pieces of what actually happened to Savvy on the night that she passed away. There are so many speculations within this book. Lucy is sure she didn't do it, but she has zero memory of what happened that night. And that has led people to create different narratives, mostly that she did it. So in the small town she lived, she moved away, and now a podcast is starting going over the facts of the case, and Lucy is called back to her hometown by her grandmother to visit, but really it is to be a part of the podcast and the investigation. Now, Lucy comes from a very interesting household where her parents did not believe that she was innocent, but were all too willing to cover up for her. She has an ex-husband, Matt, who lives in the small town, who is physically abusive, and he claims to have secrets about her. In the town, she also has a friend, Nina, and she has a friend, Emmett. And all of these characters are woven into the story as our podcaster, Ben, tries to figure out what has been going on. So this story is pretty cool because as we're going through sort of the narration of Lucy back in her hometown, Ben is also leading podcast interviews, and so we get those interview perspectives, and we're also trying to figure out what happened and piece it together because Lucy honestly has no memory of that day. There is a very big mystery element to it, so I don't want to tell too much about this story, but Ben and Lucy do have a bit of a romance throughout the story. It's very, very light, so it's not a romance, but they have a bit of a romance together, and then we find out the whodunit. This got 4 stars for me because, as many mysteries do for me, it got a little long, and I don't know what happens in the middle where it's like fast-paced until it's not. And that was this is one of those books. And so I thought it was really good, really well written. But I finished it because I wanted to get it done for the week. It wasn't a can't put it down type book, but it was still quality. So I do still recommend it. And then the last book I read is also another pick from the library. It's Love Off the Record. I got this from Libby. This book is by Samantha Markham. I just finished this moments ago and I'm giving it 3 stars. This follows two they call them grunt writers at a college newspaper who are strictly enemies. They do not get along, and they have a hard time working together. But there is an opportunity for one of them to move up, and so they are on the quest. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I know the names. They're on the quest to get that seated position. So Wynn comes from a very unique family, not a lot of money. Her parents work at like a Renaissance fair. She is a plus size woman who is really good with her body and her body image, so that's well discussed. However, she does realize how other people may view her, and her co-worker is 3. His real name is Nathaniel, but he's the 3rd, and he comes off as this very pompous, arrogant frat guy, and they start working together. There's a couple of things happening within this book. So we have the plot about becoming the next like moved up editor. Then we have a plot on campus about a crime that has taken place that Wynn's roommate was involved in. They're trying to investigate. Then we have the enemies to lovers trope with Wynn and 3. Now, overall, the book was pretty good. Like I said, I think it's worth the read. I think it's definitely a library book. I wouldn't go out and buy it. But what stopped it from getting really good to me is that the characters... Well, I guess I should say this. There's a 4th plot too, in which Wynn is chatting with a guy online through this campus like dating app, and she's using that as a practice tool for flirting and just getting some practice dating. So we have 4 different things sort of happening. They don't seamlessly go together. It really is kind of chunked out ideas. It's very clear that 3 and Wynn are going to get together. It's also very clear that 3 is the guy that she's chatting with. And so there's not that much mystery. And the crime that happened on campus is like, I don't know. I didn't think it was really well set up. It was just kind of out of the blue. And I get it's part of the plot to see who's going to write the best article for the paper and move up in their seat and job at the paper. But I just did not love how that all came together. So 3 stars. I recommend it, ? But I highly suggest that you borrow the book, don't buy it. So glad that I read it. Glad that I got 3 books done this week. I picked it up as a last minute read because I had DNF'd the Wishing Game. And so it was easy to get through. I did a lot of it on audio while I was cleaning and doing things. I'm on this cinnamon roll baking kick. And so I've been listening to it while I was doing that. And so definitely great to listen to in that sense, but not my favorite of the week. So let me show you what I want to read next week. Okay, for the upcoming week, I have some very lofty goals as I'm picking out the books that I want to read. So let's start with the first book that's on my Kindle. I don't know what order I'll read these in because it looks like I have 2 romances and a mystery thriller. But the first book is Right on Cue by Fallon Ballard. I'm going to try to put that up there. I purchased this on my birthday weekend because I saw it at the bookstore, but then I didn't pick it up, and then I decided to get it on Kindle. So this says, Amy Harper is no stranger to Hollywood, having penned some of the most popular movies of the past few years. But her latest project has hit a standstill. Unable to find the perfect leading lady, Amy's been recruited to take on the role herself, dusting off acting skills she hasn't used in over a decade. Things take a turn for the worse there's a typo. Things take a turn for the worse when she's left with the one co-star she can't trust, Grayson West. A blockbuster action hero known for his megawatt smile and impossible abs, Grayson is anyone's dream of a romantic lead. Too bad Amy still blames him for the disastrous first movie and the early end to her acting career. The friction between the two risks tanking the movie, and no one knows if it's lingering awkwardness from their youth or unresolved sexual tension. But if they want to save the production and their own careers, they need to get their acts together quickly, both on and off camera. So, enemies to lovers, we'll take it. Then I would like to read Between Friends and Lovers. I picked this up also in my recent book haul. And this one says, to the thousands of Instagram followers, Josephine is the dazzling Dr. Jojo, and her opinions on health and self-love matter. Her message, be smart, be significant, and do not put up with foolish men. Preach. Off camera, Jo's story is more complicated. She's grappling with depression and the pressures of her career, and her love life is non-existent thanks to a decade-long unrequited crush on her best friend, rom-com heartthrob Ezra Edelman. But when Ezra shows up to his 30th birthday party with his childhood bully on his arm, Jo realizes it's time to take her own advice. No one is more shocked than Malcolm Waters when his debut novel transforms him into a literary darling, the type who gets invited to a swanky party to discuss film opportunities. Rubbing elbows with entertainment's elite could be great for his career, except he's terrible with people. Just when Mal is ready to escape, he's rescued by none other than Dr. Jojo. He's been following her on social media for years, and she's even more impressive in real life. And to his bewilderment, the admiration seems mutual. But Jo, Ezra, and Mal exist in a world where the line between private and public is as blurred as the one between friendship and love. The question is, can they risk defining those lines to create something real? So I really do like this because it's like romance plus. There's a little bit more going on. So I'm excited to read that as well. And none of these books are super long, which is what I'm looking for. Like, give me 300 pages something so that I can move through these. And then I have my one chunky book of the month or of the week, The God of the Woods. I'm going to start this one today since it is thicker. And this is part of my stack of Books of the Month Club books I'm trying to get through this month. I have 5 more after this one, so we probably have to do 2 next week. But this book is about a camp in 1975. One of the 13-year-olds is abducted. They're looking for her, but like there's a pattern because the older brother of this girl that was abducted was also abducted. So it's like we have some family stuff going on. And some history, some buildup of what might be happening in the woods. So excited to read these. I wanted to pick I always take the dust jacket off. I wanted to pick a fantasy too. But the only one I have on my list right now is Dance of Thieves or Divine Rivals, and both of those are books that I tried to read and have softy enough, so I didn't want to put those on this week just in case they don't work out. But if one of these don't work out, then I'll probably go to one of those just to check it off the list. But that is the plan. So that is what I read this past week. This is the plan for what I'm reading next week. Comment down below if you've read any of these books or what your thoughts are on these. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And since we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, we're almost there. Share the channel too if you think somebody else in your life would appreciate my content. Until next time, guys. Bye.